My name is David Sullivan, and I am a data scientist at New Knowledge. We are a small startup here in town that uses data science to identify propaganda and disinformation campaigns on the internet. In this pursuit, we collect and analyze a massive quantity of data. And given that we are a small startup, we have very limited resources, so we have begun to automate certain steps in the data science pipeline. And one such solution is what I'm actually here to present today. But before we get to that, I'm going to go over just a few facts that should help you understand the motivation behind the solution I'll be presenting. I pulled some data off of data.world, so it had a nice presentation look to it. If you guys haven't been to data.world, actually, has anybody here not even heard of data.world before? Oh, go check it out. It is a data scientist's dream. It's basically an online platform. You can go and publish data sets, look at them, etc. I don't work for data.world. I love them. Anyway, apparently there's a lot of data being created in the world. I'm not sure if you guys at Anaconda know. Apparently, lots of data. 2.5 quintillion bytes. I gotta admit, I don't actually have any great comprehension for what that means, but it's big. Not only is it big, but it's getting bigger. In the next few years, it's going to be multiplied by about 50 times. So we're already at incomprehensible, and it's growing. But everybody here knows that. You guys are aware that data is huge, it's growing. And most of you are probably also aware that managing and preparing data is a huge portion of the data science workflow. The average data scientist, according to the New York Times, spends about 50 to 80% of their day just prepping and managing their data. I'm a data scientist myself, so I can confirm this. That in my workflow, that is very true. Now, here's one fact that, personally, I didn't know up until very recently. Almost 70% of corporate executives name data variety as key to success in big data. So not only are we being asked to manage and understand and prepare ever greater quantities of data, but we're also being asked to manage ever greater variety of data, which means keeping an understanding of what data you have available to you, how data relates to each other, what the context is for all your data is going to become increasingly difficult. And that's why I'm here today to present Duke, Dataset Understanding from Knowledge Base Embeddings. At its core, Duke is a system for automatically labeling data sets with a consistent set of tags based off of an ontology. These tags are very well structured and also have clear parent-child relationships where the parent is more abstract than the children. This gives you an ability to develop a rich understanding of how your data actually relates to other data sets in your corpus. So I'm going to take a minute and just talk about some of the technology that underpins the way Duke works. The first and most core piece of technology is a word-to-vec model. Sorry, I keep doing this, but quick show of hands. Who here has actually worked with word-to-vec models before, or at least is familiar? Okay, ask for word-to-vec models in Anaconda conference, and everybody's heard of them. Awesome. I'm going to go through this pretty quick then. Essentially, a word-to-vec model is a method for translating a piece of text into a vector in a high-dimensional vector space. And in this vector space, distance and direction has semantic meaning. So topics that are actually similar in the way we think about them and the way we discuss them will show up near each other in this vector space. This allows you to do really cool vector operations. I refuse to do the king, queen, man, woman example. I've heard that about 100 times, and if you've read any paper in Word2Vec, they just beat that example to death. But I have a new one, and this is like open commons. Please use this, or something similar, or just make up your own. King, queen, man, woman instead. Anyway, so if you have the vector for pig, and you subtract from it the vector for piglet, the resulting vector is going to represent the relationship between pig and piglet, it being sort of the young of piglet, the child, or the piglet being the young of pig, or the child of pig. If you then add that vector to fawn, you can get deer. So this allows you to, I'm sure you can see some of the power of being able to do vector operations on text. Another core piece of technology that we rely on, something I'm pretty sure nobody's heard of, it's called Wikipedia. Wikipedia has the goal of containing all of the world's knowledge. So if you're trying to use Word2Vec to gain an understanding of your data set, where better to train on than Wikipedia? If you train a Word2Vec model on Wikipedia, it have inherently understandings of the relationships between types or entities. It'll understand that pig is a type of mammal, that pigs have children that are called piglets, that pigs are used in farming, etc. And all of that semantic information will actually be embedded in your vector space. Unfortunately, Wikipedia is gigantic. So the model takes a long time to train. It's very big. However, there is a publicly available Wikipedia-trained Word2Vec model called Wiki2Vec at the link down there at the bottom. Is this thing with a laser pointer? Not a good one. All right. You can follow that link. You can download the Wikipedia-trained Word2Vec model. We also link it on the GitHub page, which I'll show you guys later. And a second technology, or I guess a third now, that we use is dbpedia. dbpedia takes the content of Wikipedia and builds a knowledge graph out of it. So it takes just the raw text of the Wikipedia articles and uses that to establish relationships between items. Again, using the pig-piglet example, which might be a dead example by the end of this talk, it will embed and have a relationship between pig and piglet that explicitly represents the fact that piglet is a type of pig, essentially. So we use dbpedia for their knowledge graph, which contains both a list of types with relationships, as well as that abstraction levels. So because they know piglet is a type of pig, and pig is a type of mammal, mammal is a type of animal, it's a type of eukaryote, and I didn't pay attention enough in biology to go up any higher than that. These are the core technologies that we rely on. So I'm actually going to walk you through how we use all those technologies to generate tags for data sets. You start off with your documents, using the word document very vaguely because it is a vague term. You have documents. Duke will first take those documents and extract all the text data. When I'm trying to determine what the semantic content of your data set is, I don't care about the floats and the ints, and usually don't care about the dates either. All I really want to know is what's the text of your data. Typically, this is maybe some header information, a couple columns and tabular data set, some long-form descriptions. Whatever that may be, we'll extract it. And then each term that we've extracted from your document is embedded into our Wiki2Vec vector space. So now we've gone from a document, kind of in the abstract sense, and we've translated it to a collection of vectors, where vectors in this Word2Vec space. And here's where dbpedia comes in. Since dbpedia is built off of Wikipedia, every entity in the dbpedia graph will also show up as vocabulary in this Word2Vec model trained on Wikipedia. So we can actually measure the distance from every keyword in your document to every type that we pulled out of the dbpedia ontology. This gets us a new set of vectors, where each component of the vector represents a distance between some keyword in your document and one of the topics that was extracted from dbpedia. For example, let's say you have a data set, and the first three words are lion, tiger, and bear. There is a type for mammal within the dbpedia graph, and that is going to be the type, if everything's going well, that is going to be the type that has the lowest distance to those three words. So mammal is going to have a very low distance score. But the next three words are hawk, eagle, and grackle. Clearly not mammals. The closest term to them is going to be bird. So now you have two sort of conflicting types. However, because of the use of the dbpedia knowledge graph, we actually know that both mammal and bird are a type of animal. So once we have these vectors that have distances between every keyword in your text and every type in the dbpedia graph, we can use the hierarchical information in that graph in order to assign animal as having the highest score rather than either mammal or bird, which are the ones which were directly pulled out of the documents. Because animal is actually the label you would want for these 6 words, because clearly that is the lowest abstraction description for those 6. One key thing to note here is that there's been no supervised training. In the process of this, I personally wrote no learning code. We used Word2Vec. Obviously, Word2Vec is a trained model, but these are available, and it's an unsupervised training. You don't have to go through and hand label things. I have gone through and hand labeled thousands of labels for things, and it is not fun. But with Duke, no learning is required. All right, I've talked enough. I'm sure you guys want to see a demo, see it actually work. I can talk up here about theory all I want, but until it actually works, it's not worth anything. All right, so I have a Jupyter notebook here pulled up. Duke is loaded. And actually, let's play a little bit of a game. I have a data set here. Here's the first 5 rows. This one's a CSV. CSVs are just easy to work with. Anybody want to just shout out what like a good label for this data set would be? Okay, we got baseball stats that shows up. If somebody knows Hank Aaron, games played, batting, that kind of stuff. Anything else? All right, yeah, baseball. I mean, anybody looking at this, you think for a couple seconds, you know it's baseball, unless you really just are very not into sports. Duke can actually print out any number of labels in descending order of accuracy. So let's just print out the top 5. All right, so we have the data set again. Baseball league, sports league, baseball player, baseball team, and baseball season. One thing to note, baseball is not found anywhere in this data set. It was able to extract these key terms such as walks and batting average and Hank Aaron and actually abstract upwards and identify that this data set is about baseball. I do have a minor confession to make. We pulled this data set off of OpenML. It is used a lot in examples for automating machine learning. This is kind of an easy one. We used it in development, but I have a few more loaded up that we can take a look at. All right, this next data set. Cylinders, displacement, horsepower, weight, acceleration, model. Something about cars, maybe engines, that sort of thing. May have to think about it for an extra second or two, but still not too bad for a human to do. But again, car, engine, not really found anywhere in this data set. Yet Duke pulls out fuel type, engine configuration, liter, engine, and kilogram per cubic meter, or just force. So you can actually directly use these labels to understand relationships between data sets. If you have some other data set out there that also has the tag engine, you know that you can relate this data set, which I think is just data set number 4 in my demo. You can show that you have data that also talks about fuel type and engine configuration, but maybe you have another data set that talks about different engine manufacturers. And both of these will have this same label of engine, and you can use a simple lookup to link these data sets in the future. All right, again, it's pretty easy. Seeing a bit of the post-lunch coma, so I'm going to jump to 2 more easy ones. And I'm going to take you to one that I couldn't figure out myself. I actually want to see if anybody can get this one. Anybody know what this is about? You know far more than I do. All right, before we move on, has anybody ever had one of those weirdly specific bugs that just drives you freaking nuts? I'm working on the dev version of Duke because I'm currently working on it. And this bug has come up where Duke really loves Formula One teams. I mean, honestly, I think it's about a third of the data sets. It's like, oh, this is about Formula One teams. Like, no. It's not in the production version. It's just in my dev version. Don't worry, and I will fix it. Anyway, first one's Formula One team, but then sumo wrestler, day, martial arts, and wrestler. I used Duke to tell me what this data set was about because I had no idea. I looked it up. This is about sumo wrestlers, I think in 1985, and their win statistics. it beat the data scientist. All right, I heard some appreciation, so I'm glad that you guys think it's as cool as I do. Of course, I think it's cool. I built it. Yeah, all right. We won't spend too much time on this because I know it's really hard to look at. But I also put together some graphics that you can look at maybe if you have the slide just in front of you. We also have a research paper that shows that we match very closely with human-provided tags. We picked out a few data sets. If we do more than 3, this gets just crazy messy. But we picked out 3 data sets and that were hand-labeled. I don't know if you can see. Let's start with the green one. These projectors, the color is always a little weird. The manual tags are the triangles, and dukes are the circles. So you see wherever there's a couple triangles, there's always a duke label that corresponds to it. I should actually qualify what exactly this is. This is a 2-dimensional representation of the 700-dimensional Word2Vec space. So you lose a whole lot of data going down to 2 dimensions, but my 700-dimensional projector hasn't gotten in yet. Apparently Amazon Prime doesn't deliver that, so we're working on it. But anyway, 2-dimensional representation, you can see that in every case, Duke finds a label that's very similar to what a human would label it. And in a few cases, for the blue example, Duke actually in 2 cases exactly matched one of the user-provided tags. And I've also looked through what the tags actually say, and they are always very similar in this list. Here's where I believe the real power of Duke comes in. We use Wikipedia and DBpedia in order to run Duke. However, you don't have to. Wikipedia is very broad. It's very general, so it's not going to get very specific. It's been a week, and I'm still surprised that it got sumo wrestler. But if you work in an industry, say the medical industry or the finance industry, most of these large industries or even larger companies have their own knowledge base, some sort of agreed upon canonical set of descriptions of topics that are relevant to you. If you train a Word2Vec model on your industry's or your company's knowledge base, and then spend a little bit of time organizing your labels into a strict hierarchy, into a strict ontology, you can directly plug them into Duke, and it'll run just fine. So not only can you do very general Wikipedia-based tagging, you can do it specific to your company and get into much finer detail. So you can pull out those much more rich relationships between data sets that are available to you. And I'm saying that you can do this because, of course, Duke is open sourced. Again, okay, mild disclaimer, we just open sourced this, like 2 weeks ago. So it is at the very early stages. It is in, I would call it like a beta testing stage. So please go check it out, download it, see if you can get it working, and file issues. We have a staff of 5 data scientists. We do this for a living, so hopefully we should be able to be pretty responsive to your issues, and we'll try and work things out. It works on my machine, and it works on all my coworkers' machines, but I'm guessing there's maybe another 5 of you out there who it'll work right away. But please send issues, we'll get it working, and we'll publish you updates. And feel free to just reach out if you have any even just questions about how to get it running, new features, et cetera. As I mentioned before, we also have a paper. I clearly did a very high-level overview of the math behind how Duke works. It's going to bore you if I try and sit up here and explain the math like in detail, all of what's going on. But if you are interested, if you are a dork like me, we have a paper. It's up on the archive. I'm sure this presentation could be made available, but take a picture, write it down, whatever. We're also looking to get it published soon in some upcoming conference, so please check it out if you're interested. There's some of my coworkers whose machine it also works on. And if you want to get a little bit more involved in Duke and some of the other software we do, or if you're interested in fighting propaganda or disinformation campaigns on the internet, my startup is hiring. I want to say we're 20 right now, but we're growing so fast that I'm starting to lose track. We're here in Austin. We're looking for basically the full spectrum of software engineers, full stack, senior software, data engineers. Please come check us out. Apply online, or just come talk to me after this talk. I promise I'm friendly. But honestly, I think it's a great place to work.